Cheers, guys. Epix 911, welcome to the Elitist Geek VR news for Gaming Friday. November 11th, 2016. Let's jump right into VR, guys, and start with a bit of preamble. Let's talk about Rom Extraction. So this is the debut VR shooter from a bunch of Call of Duty development veterans. I've mentioned the studio before. They call themselves First Contact. Likely to see this game get released before the end of the calendar year, likely sometime in December. It's going to be for HTC Vive and Oculus Rift both. And possibly even the PlayStation VR. They need to be convinced for themselves, however, that the unique 360 degree movement that they're using in the game is going to translate to the PlayStation's slightly inferior tracking system. So if that confirms and checks out okay, could be made available on the PlayStation VR as well. They just don't want to limit the playability and have to take shortcuts if that's not the case. All right, so let's jump into the news and start with the obvious one that everybody's been talking about, and that is the HTC Vive wireless add-on. Now, TPCAST is the wing of HTC that's been doing R&D for the HTC Vive as part of the accelerator program. They've got quite a few companies doing R&D. TPCAST has come up with this wireless add-on. So, before the comments of, why aren't you that excited, Epix? I'm excited in that I am cautiously, optimistically excited. In the sense that, look, what do we know about this? Very precious little. We know that the battery lasts about 90 minutes. Now, that's not a hell of a long time. However, in virtual reality, that's actually not that bad because most of the experiences don't tend to last that long. The typical average gaming cycle for most people in VR tends to be shorter than it is, on a regular console or 2D on a monitor PC game. Now, with that said, playing a level of this or a level of that easily within the 90 minutes. Anything longer, like Elite Dangerous, that's where you're going to get into some trouble. Now, they are already working on an enhanced battery, something that could be worn on the side of your hip or in a pocket, as opposed to what you see in the picture here that I've posted on, like, integrated onto the strap system itself. So, yeah, 90 minutes. I'm actually not that worried about 90 minutes. I think that's an okay amount of time for a first go. What I'm more concerned about is the latencies. Now, we've heard Alvin say, and he's HTC president, China region. In the video, we can see him using the device and, his comment that it's low latency, which is fine. But how low is low latency? I'd actually like to get specifications on that, just so we know what we're up against. When we say, or when you use verbiage like it's similar, well, what does that mean? Similar better, similar same, similar slightly worse, right? And we're going to get that information. But that obviously didn't stop pre-order pandemonia, which struck at 7 a.m. Pacific time when the pre-orders went up and sold out within 18 minutes. Yes, within 18 minutes, all the pre-orders sold out. They hope to have another batch of pre-orders up in December. If that is the case and I find out, I will let you know because I missed the pre-order myself. So definitely want to be getting myself one of these for the HTC Vive. $220 US was what they were going for. And other than the latency for the wireless functionality, what is the impact on tracking with the wireless system? Gaming in general. Are there any other negatives? Those are the types of things that, I generally like to see reviews for, or just a little bit more technical information. But with all of that said, absolutely fantastic. This is definitely a step in the direction we all knew we had to go, right? It's the future of VR wireless. Of that, there can be no doubt. And I just want it to be a good first step, rather than a first step that people have regrets about. And that's why I'm being so cautiously optimistic. So, we should find out in short order more details about this wireless unit. But again, it's from TPCAST, $220 US, and we should see another batch of pre-orders up within December. All right. Looks like NextVR has some competition in the 360-degree entertainment video department. Company VRTIFY, literally VRTIFY, is set to offer 360-degree live music performances. And what they've said is that they don't want to try to recreate the real experience. They want to create a new experience. And along with the obvious of the 360-degree, they're going to give you various viewpoints, whether it's, watching a concert backstage, side stage, front row, back, or hell, up in the nosebleeds. You're going to get those options with VRTIFY. And they're also throwing in 3D audio, and there's going to be the ability for full HD 3D. But again, I'd love to get some more specs on this and what exactly do they mean by that? Is that going to be integrated into the VR? Are these, snapshots that you get with the HMD on your head and so forth? So we should find out. All major headsets are part of the current beta. So that includes the Vive, the Rift, the Gear VR, Cardboard, and PlayStation VR. All right, next news story. And speaking of NextVR, not to be outdone with news releases today, they fired back that and announced a partnership with the NFL, not for games like with the NBA, but post-game coverage in 360-degree via the VR HMDs. Now, what I would like to know, and they don't specify in anything I've been able to see, is does that post-game coverage cover highlights, replays, if it does, that would be a lot more enticing than simply just watching a couple of broadcasters speak in 360 about the post game. So hopefully it does include that, highlights, best plays from the game, scoring, replay summary, that sort of thing. As I find out, I will let you guys know. All right, this next news link, and this has come up quite a bit, particularly with the story of a few days ago about the game chain charging for Sony PlayStation VR, testing of demo content. So RoadtoVR has published a massive list of links, and from what I could see, for the most part, it's relegated to North America and Europe. I didn't see Asia or Australia on here. If I can find out, links that apply to those regions, I will add them post-video. But right now, it looks like most of the search functionality for finding those free demo areas and stores that are participating are for the US, Canada, and Europe. Next news piece. Google confirms that Huawei, which is the Chinese manufacturer of the Mate 9 phones, among others, but the Mate 9 specifically will be Daydream Ready. So it's nice to see that added, and you can definitely see that that was a shot intended for and at Samsung and HTC both, even though they're in a different space. Remember, they are also a mobile phone manufacturer. So Google firing right back with this Chinese partnership. So add another to the Pixel stable for Daydream Ready functionality. Next news piece, MSI. They've announced their VR1 backpack PC can now be pre-ordered, and this comes in two variants. So the first variant, which is kind of their entry-level backpack, has a GTX 1060, 16 gigabytes of RAM, a 256 gigabyte SSD drive with an i7 processor for $1999 US, so $2,000 US. Their high-end version just switches two components. Instead of the 256 gigabyte SSD, you get a 512 gigabyte, and instead of the GTX 1060, you get the GTX 1070. Unfortunately, it's not the 1080, it is the 1070, but still that is a massive jump from the 1060. Now, the pre-order is going to be up as of this week. Shipping starts November 30th, but that's only for the entry-level unit. The high-end unit, they have not listed a date for that. And remember, that's the one with the 1070 and double the SSD. That's the one that would probably, for me, be most appealing. Now, both of the backpacks, regardless of which version you go for, weigh in at about 3.6 kilograms, or roughly 8 pounds. And the last news story, this has to do with a virtual reality film called The Turning Forest. Now, The Turning Forest was originally created for the Oculus Rift, and it debuted with trailers at an event, the 2016 Tribeca Film Festival. The storyline concerns a young child who stares into the eyes of a fantastical creature before embarking on a journey together into a new realm of quote-unquote folkish dimension and boundless imagination. You gotta like that description, right? But it will be available for free from the BBC for Google Daydream. So if you've got one of the new Google Daydreams, there you go, some free content right off the bat. All right, guys, that is it for VR news today. As always, cheers, and definitely catch you on the VR flip side.